This is the story of a divided America, a bitterly fought election, and a congressional session where the loser tried to flip the results. Sounds familiar, yeah? I'm talking, of course, about the 1800 presidential election. John Adams lost to Thomas Jefferson, and in the 11th hour of his presidency, tried to change the makeup of the Supreme Court to thwart his political rival. The Midnight Judges Act led to a lawsuit that ultimately gave SCOTUS the power to invalidate laws that violated the Constitution. There's not going to be a quiz, but I'm giving you this history lesson to make the point that the Supreme Court has been embroiled in politics since the days of the Founding Fathers. In 2023, Americans think SCOTUS is broken. Just 25% of U.S. adults have a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in the court. That's a low in Gallup's 50 years of polling. A lot of that unhappiness comes from the idea that the court has become politicized. The justices' robes aren't black so much as red and blue. We're taught that Supreme Court justices are impartial referees that stay above the fray of politics, a point that Chief Justice John Roberts made during his confirmation.
Umpires don't make the rules, they apply them. It's my job to call balls and strikes and not to pitch or bat.
But if you look back at history, the idea of a nonpartisan court is a relatively new phenomenon. The first ever Chief Justice, John Jay, was George Washington's close advisor and negotiated an unpopular peace treaty with Great Britain while he was on the bench. In the court's history, dozens of justices were former politicians or openly harbored political aspirations. Justice John McLean ran for president 8 times while sitting on the court. And William Taft, who became Chief Justice after he was president, not only advised Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover, but he also used his political savvy to expand the power of the court to set its own docket. But maybe the best example is Abe Fortas. He made a career of blurring the line between the executive and the judicial branch. He was LBJ's close advisor, writing the veto of the 1966 crime bill, as well as Johnson's 1967 address justifying sending federal troops to stop protesters in Detroit.
The federal government, in the circumstances here presented, had no alternative but to respond.
Fortas ultimately resigned following accusations of financial corruption, but not political activism. Which brings us to today. Major rulings from a conservative majority like the 2022 decision to strike down Roe v. Wade have Democrats arguing that the court has a political agenda. And revelations that Justice Clarence Thomas accepted lavish gifts from a billionaire Republican donor have ratcheted that criticism way up.
The problem is not that the Supreme Court is just conservative. The problem is that it's corrupt.
The right says Democrats are sore losers. But only in the last half-century had the court really cemented its identity as a neutral umpire, which makes calls for reform by either party feel politically motivated. For the last 50 years, we've leaned into the idea that the Supreme Court is nonpartisan, but the truth is, it's always been political.